All right, good morning. Welcome back here to Trader Renee. Great to have you aboard. I was passed a note just as I was finishing the last video that there were some issues there with the last video loading. So my apologies there for that. But I'm told a recording is not going to be available for it. So I'm jumping on and I'll kind of repeat what I went through here with it. Now, S&P futures very active overnight. I jumped on this morning, kind of talking about what happened there with that. We have not seen a lot of new stuff come out this morning, at least just yet. If you're following U.S. President Trump's Twitter account, there's nothing new there, but not a whole lot of new out of the White House or anything like that. We have S&P futures, which, if we have them looking on this chart where we look at everything overnight and then the opening action this morning, it doesn't look like they're moving all that much. If we zoom into today's action, there's about a 14-point range on futures, which is, fairly high, significant, but doesn't look like much compared to last night. And we saw this, morning action where you get this kind of, whipsaw, this initial down minute, and then snap back up. And a lot of times when you see that, the path of least resistance is going to be higher early on. It doesn't say anything about the rest of the day. But, for the first hour, half hour, you tend to see things go higher. But some of the gains have been paired here as, we do see, about an 8-point slide here in the last about 20 minutes for futures. Now, what's going on market wise? Well, let's take it from a challenge perspective here, and the scans here, and these might have changed just a little bit, but the downside scans, no, it's the same. Walgreens, Schlumberger, Halliburton, Barrick Gold, EWZ. Walgreens gapping down big, so no chance of triggering. It's moving more than two average two ranges. Think about Schlumberger and Halliburton, and last night, if you were in an oil stock and you're watching things unfold last night and you see oil, just take that big spike all the way up to 65, you're thinking, man, oil stocks are going to do really well today. Well, oil's given up that entire spike and push lower, so we are seeing energy stocks trade lower here this morning. And so, no triggers here on it, but those are the downside crossovers. If we look at the upside crossovers, we have two potential triggers. One of them, Home Depot, and the other one is Starbucks. Now, Home Depot, let me show you the chart here. This looks a lot like CSX did yesterday. In terms of its components and everything, with the stock. So, we'll see how it closes here today. Home Depot's been, through a few interesting things, and then Starbucks, which we got a nice buy signal on the other day, entered it. The news kind of changed the course here. We've seen kind of this 3-day pullback, and then today, kind of emerging from that, we have a fresh new 3-7 crossover. So something that easily could trigger by the close here this afternoon. And so we'll see kind of how that plays out with Starbucks here. And, I won't hesitate to enter it this afternoon should a signal be in play here for it. So those are the scans and how they sit. Again, no signal yet, but we could see a signal come into play here a little bit later today. Now, if we go and we look at some of the things that are happening in the market, let's go take a look at the S&P futures, because we talked about this yesterday, and this kind of reaction range for futures and how they were sitting with the missile strike stuff that was going on. And we have the upside here, and we have the downside there from Thursday to Friday, kind of that Thursday overnight period. And since that, we had traded in between. And then last night we broke it. And yesterday I mentioned that if we were to break this, or hit it from an oversold condition, we'll probably see a snapback. And we had that. We had the snapback. Now, it didn't snap back because it was oversold. It snapped back because the news created a little bit more of a panic. And then as the real news came out, it was, oh, okay, not that big of a deal, for market participants. So we saw a reversal there and puts the market kind of right back to where it was at the same time yesterday. And, so where do we go from here? I still think these levels matter. These initial reaction ranges, I still think they matter. I still think they're in play. It's something where if we do break today's lows, path of least resistance is likely lower for the rest of the day. But we're probably not going to break this kind of high reaction low from last week, here today. But, we could see that easily broken later on this week, even as we get the jobs report later on as well. So, that's something to keep an eye out here for as we go forward there. Now, the other thing is FedEx. And, FedEx is a stock. It's on the challenge watch list. It's a stock that, we talked about the last earnings. Last two earnings reports have been pretty ugly for FedEx. FedEx jumped a little bit here today, and it's had some gentle upside pressure throughout the year so far. Jumping here today, and there's some good volume in it as well. And if I just come into the 1 minute chart for FedEx, you can see the volumes here. These are pretty hefty volumes. So what's going on? Well, there's a rumor that FedEx could get bought out, could get taken over, right? Okay, could it happen? Yes, it could happen, right? If we come in and just come into something like FinViz and take a look at FedEx, and we look at the market cap, it's a $41 billion company. So is it cheap? No. Is it super expensive? No, right? So it is something that could get bought out. They've fallen on hard times, so the stock is significantly cheaper than what it has been over the past couple years. Who could buy it, right? Is it going to be Amazon? Is it going to be UPS? Is it going to be a private firm, right? Is it going to be, I saw Warren Buffett's name in the headline for it. Is it something that, another private equity firm is going to come in and buy them out? Yeah, it could be, right? It could be. Well, if we take a look and say, well, Amazon, right? Is Amazon going to buy them out? Well, they could. Right? They could. Amazon's almost a $1 trillion company. They could make the math work and, integrate them into what they're doing and, essentially take over shipping. Are they going to do it? Well, that's not Amazon's style, right? If you look at how Amazon has built things, over the past 10, 20 years, it's one where they built from the ground up. Even Amazon Web Services, they didn't go out and just buy a whole bunch of companies or buy one big company and say, boom, now we have web services. No, they spent big money to build it. Now, they did bring in a few companies, integrate them and everything else, but they didn't make massive transactions. So are they going to go out and with something that they've already been building from the ground up, are they going to go and buy FedEx? Probably not, right? So, that's something where you look and you say, well, probably not the buyer, but could be. What about UPS? Could they? Well, UPS is a $100 billion company. They could make it work. We could even be talking about a merger between the two or something like that. Yes, it could all work, right? I don't have any special insight into it all. I don't have anything where I know what's going on in the inner workings of FedEx and everything else. But it's one of those where how do you play it? How do you play any type of rumor or, takeover speculation? Well, the nice thing is it's easy to play, right? And the way I play it is I come into the options and I go out, give myself, I'd like to give myself a couple months. Obviously, the more time, the better, but, a couple months, I'm happy. And I go get out of the money, and I go get into an area where, if they're bought out, we could see it trade into that area pretty easily. And so for me, FedEx, it's about the 185 to 195 level. And so I just take a look at the call spread, right? And if I can come in, and obviously you're going to have to do a limit order, but if I can buy the right to buy FedEx at 185, and offset that cost with the obligation to sell it at 195 or even 200, well, okay, right? Okay. I can come in, I can get this for about 40 cents, 35, 40, 45 cents. And yeah, it could possibly be worth $10. So I go out, I put what I'm willing to risk, and I just set it, let it go. I don't have to worry about it, don't have to analyze it. I just am able to say, hey, if it gets bought out, great, happy. If not, all right, I'll wait for the next one. Now, I'm not doing this with FedEx. I'm not in it with FedEx. I personally, I don't think they're close to getting bought out, here with FedEx, and I could be dead wrong because I really don't have anything major or any real facts to make that statement, right? But, for me personally, it's just not something I'm interested in, here yet. Obviously, things could change, but, with where it is, I'm not very interested. But if I were, that's how I would look to go play it. Now, if you're going to come out, you say, well, I want to give myself more time. You come out to June, you look at the same strike prices. Well, now you're about $1.40 to get into it, right? So, more time you give yourself, the more expensive it's going to be. And that is obviously the nature of options, as all of you already know. So anyway, that's how I'd go out and play FedEx, and how I would deal with FedEx here if I were interested in being a buyer on this rumor. Frankly, the stock's up 80 cents on a day where there's a buyout rumor. That's telling you something. What's it telling you? The market really doesn't believe it, right? And, there's just so many times where we see buyout rumors come in and the stock takes an initial jump, and all we do is see the short sellers go and sell it. And ultimately, you go and look at where the buyout rumor came from, and the short sellers, drove it a little bit there. So I'm not saying that's what's going on with FedEx, but there is that element that does take place or does transpire here in the markets. All right. Okay, so no new signals to go and react to. I will take a look here this afternoon. We could have one Starbucks, Home Depot, and obviously if the market changes a little bit, we can see a few other things come into play, and I will look to react to them if and as they come into play. Have yourselves a fantastic day, and I'll talk to you this afternoon. Take care.